Hi everyone, this is the fourth episode of the Saudi Football Fanatic podcast. Today we will highlight the seventh and eighth rounds from the RSL with the focus on the bigger matches like Akli versus Nasser. Also, we will have a short Q&A session at the end of this episode. If you did not have the chance to listen to our previous episodes, you can find us on Spotify and also you can follow our further contents on Instagram and Facebook. You can also check our dream team, be it from the summer transfers of the RSL on the Instagram. And now we can move on to the topics in which the usual team will help us. Hello, guys.
Hi everyone.
Hi, hi.
So before we start the analysis of the seventh round, Andris, could you please summarize what happened in the cup this week?
Yes, happily. Let me start with saying that in the previous episode, we already covered the first four matches of the round of 32, when all RSL teams bested their lower league opponents. Just as a quick recap, Al Shabaab went forward with an extra time winner free kick delivered by Yannick Carrasco, and Al Hazem eliminated Al Arabi with a magnificent performance of Faiz Selemani. On the other two matches, Etifak easily went through Jeddah with star performances of Dembele and Wijnaldum, while Al Tavoun has beaten Al Qadisiyah with Musa Barrow debuting in the cup with an early goal. Since the recording of our previous episode, the remaining 12 fixtures of the round of 32 also reached a conclusion. I will not go into details in the case of most of these, but only in respect of the most interesting ones. Uh, I I don't want to be disrespectful, as obviously all the matches are equally important. But as we are talking about a lot of matches, and at this stage of the King Cup, we have to select some of them and highlight the most interesting ones. So Al Khalay and Damak both eliminated their lower league opponents, and none of these opponents were able to score a single goal against these RSL teams, which statement is only technically correct, as Al Kaisumah scored against Damak, but with the helpful assistance of the Damak right back Fakihi, who scored an unlucky own goal in the last quarter of the game. Fortunately for Damak, this own goal had ultimately no impact on the final result, and they went through.
Let me just quickly interrupt and clarify one point. In the previous episode, we mentioned Muat Fakihi, the talented left back of Al Tavoun. We know the similarity of the names can be confusing for all those who are familiarizing themselves with the Russian Saudi League nowadays. So I just wanted to highlight that they are two different players.
Yes, thanks, Yula, and to making it clear, then Sultan Fakihi plays for Damak as a right back, while Muat Fakihi plays for Al Tavoun as a left back. To move forward, my favorite team, Al Nasser. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but I'm still a fan, so cannot be totally objective. So Al Nasser easily eliminated Ohod, its Yellow League opponent, with 5-1. This was not only an easy match for the Riyadh team, but counting on this, they could also rest some of their key players. Key players like Brozovic, and another more or less well-known player who may be familiar to our listeners, so-called Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro.
Never heard of him.
and anyway, the match was not that easy as it seems later on, as Ohod kept a score of 1-1 until Fofana's goal in the 62nd minute. This goal decided the match, as from this moment onwards, the goals started to land in the net of Ohod quite frequently, though. On the match of two first division teams, Al Fayha defeated Al Riyadh on away ground in Riyadh.
Yeah, but from the perspective of Riyadh, this defeat may be beneficial during the tight race for avoiding the relegation, since they will have more rested players than the other teams.
Yes, they will need every resources they can have for their quest to remain in the RSL at the end of the year. So another fixture of the Erasal teams were the one played between Fateh and Al Ogdud, with Al Fateh scoring thrice and Al Ogdud only once.
Well, we can say that Al Fateh really started the season on a high note.
Yes, yes, and especially Murad Batna, who scored twice and provided an assist as well. So basically, he was involved in all three goals.
We will talk about that during the summary of the league games. So let's move on with the cup, please.
Sure. The Cup's biggest almost surprise was without any doubt Al Ittihad's performance against Al Kholoud, their Yellow League opponent. The 90 minutes ended with a 1-1. Al Ittihad's only goal was an own goal scored by their Yellow League opponent. It is a fact that Karim Benzema and Coronado were injured, and also that Hamdallah was also missing. But still, I mean, we are talking about the reigning champion who registered many serious players to this match, along with summer reinforcements. Romarinho, Fabinho, ex-Lazio and Betis player Luis Felipe, Hassan Kadesh were playing the whole match, and even N'Golo Kante had to be substituted during halftime. Despite this fact, Etihad was unable to score any goal, not only during the 90 minutes, but during the extra time as well. So there came the penalties. And Romarinho immediately scared the Etihad fans even more as he missed the first one. But lucky for Etihad, Al Kholoud also missed in the fourth round. No further misses, so the most exciting part of football, the sudden death round, started. And now, listen, as a very rare thing happened, both teams missed their chances in both of the seventh and the eighth rounds.
Actually, so if I understand correctly, this means that if Kholoud would have been able to score just once out of these two rounds, they would have relegated the last year's RSL champion.
You understood correctly, but did they not? And then they were punished for this. As in the 10th round, Al Kholoud missed.
Yeah, and it was missed by Mohamed Al Shahrani, who was substituted in the last 2 minutes just for the penalties.
Typical. I don't even understand why coaches keep doing these sort of substitutions.
Yeah, just what I wanted to say, honestly. We could have bet serious money on this one. Poor Shahrani. I mean, such a substitution puts just too much pressure, if you ask me, on the player, doesn't it?
Yeah, actually, yes, but if we are talking about unlucky performances, we have to mention poor Roberto Diaz as well, who delivered an own goal and missed his penalty in the sudden death section.
Yeah, and to say that's football, and I'm sure he will bounce back. To quickly wrap up the remaining matches, Al Ahly, no wonder, defeated Al Ain, but Al Ain stopped the heartbeat of some of the Ahly fans when, after 3-0 halftime, they came back to 3-2 in the last minute.
By the way, for the purposes of clarity, let me mention that this Alain is not to be mixed up with the one-time Champions League winner Alain of Abu Dhabi.
If you would like to know, the Hungarian world traveler Balázs Zsuzsak played in the latter one.
He did. Okay, back to Saudi Arabia. Abha bested higher. Al Vecta has beaten Al Orubah 2-0, while Al Hilal defeated Al Jabalain on away ground.
Yes, but only with a single Ruben Neves goal, just to refer to our previous episode statement on Hilal's form.
But they still won, and that is what counts. They are in the next round, and that's all what a Hilal fan could ask for.
Okay, okay, but at least Mitrovic could have scored.
Well, you know, Mitrovic only scores on important games, and it seems this match was not enough important for him.
Okay, okay.
Big game, Alexander. Yeah. And last but not least, we had two RSL teams who did not make the next round. And these are, not to shame them, but they are Al Rayed and Al Tai, which teams surprisingly both have been defeated by their Yellow League opponents, Al Naima and Al Faisali. Riyadh and Tai can concentrate on the league now with full focus, while Al Naima and Al Faisali are one step further to make their dreams a very nice reality. Then the question arose, obviously, who did they get in the next round? Yes, their next opponents will be each other. So this means we will have one Yellow League team amongst the best 8 teams of the cup, and that's for sure.
I'm sure we will all cheer for that team in the quarterfinal and hopefully later as well.
That's at least I certainly will do so. It's almost always exciting.
Uh, Even if they are playing against Nasser.
That's a good question. Probably yes, to be fair.
And what do you think, Andrish? What will be the toughest fixture in the round of 16?
Nah, that's an easy one. It will be Al Nasser against Al Ettifaq. So 2 teams from the Big Six. But given the current strength of Al Fateh, their match against Al Shabab on home ground is also a tough one.
Especially because it will be played just 2 days before Shabab's match against Etihad.
Oh, wow, yeah, I haven't thought about that, to be honest. That's true, and then they will need to decide what is more important for them.
Yeah, probably that will depend on their results by the end of October in the league. I mean, whether they can afford to focus on this cup match or not, given that they are lagging behind their rivals at the moment.
Yes, we will keep this in mind by then, and we'll focus on this in our episode after this end of October phase of Saudi football.
نيكولاي محاولة لبصعة ضمك في هذه الأثناء نيكولاي تسديدة حلوة يا ولد يا ولد
Okay, if that was all about the cup, then we can move on to the highlights of the seventh round. This round was full of interesting matches, such as the draw of Hilal against Damak, and of big derbies, for example, the Khazim derby or Nasrur against Ahli. But let's hear the details, starting with Hilal.
Yeah, actually, it was enough about the cup fixtures, so we move to the league now with Damak versus Hilal, which ended 1-1. Probably this was the surprise of this game week, as high-flying Al Hilal failed to beat Damak. In fact, the draw was a fair result, and Damak fully deserved the point, to be honest. Malcolm put the visitors in front early. However, after Neymar and Mitrovic missed glorious chances at both sides of the halftime, to finish off the game, really, they didn't. Damak deservedly leveled from the free kick of summer signing Nikolai Stanciu. Bono should really have done better to save his long-range effort, but he didn't. So overall, and in light of the performances of the team, I think it's a deserved draw, 1-1.
Totally agree. Well deserved point for Damak. And Andrish, what happened in the always heated Kasim derby?
Um, Let me start with a quick background for the sake of the listeners. Riyadh and Jeddah are not the only cities where local derbies take place. As mentioned in our first episode, I believe by Jula, there is a third city which has 2 RSL teams, and this city is Buraida, the largest city and the capital of the Al Qasim region, hence the name Qasim Derby. The 2 rival teams are Al Tawun and Al Rayed, both situated in Buraida. They are also sharing the same stadium, the King Abdullah Sports City Stadium. So this is a bit similar to the Derby della Madonnina of Milano. This match is always a heated and eagerly waited event in the life of the city Buraida. The first out of the 2 Qasim derbies in the league this year took place in the 7th round, where Al Tawun was considered as the home team. Al Tawun seems to be in a better shape nowadays and started the season very, very strong. So it was no surprise that they could take all 3 points with the support of their fans, who were in a vast majority thanks to the home ground. However, I have to mention that it was a tougher match for Al Tawun than expected, at least expected by myself. They turned with a score of 2-1 to the second half, which we found out later that it was the final score of the match as well. So they turned to the second half with a 2-1. But after this, in the second half, Al Rayed had much more possession and more chances for the equalizer than Al Tawun for a third goal. However, they did not succeed, and this is mainly thanks to the very stable defense of Al Tawun that they have built for this season, and that what we are experiencing in the last rounds of the RSL. It has to be noted that we had a feeling that Al Tawun simply fell asleep after scoring twice quickly, and that thus they almost let the match out of their hands. This is something that must not happen again, especially if they want to remain in competition with the big six teams. So this was 3 points, along with a good lesson for them. And on the other side, Al Riyadh can start to prepare for the rematch, which will take place in March. Based on their performance, they will have every chance to take their revenge.
Yeah, nice summary, thanks. And we can say that the great form of Tawun is not so surprising if they manage to deliver in such heated derbies, regardless of performance. But if we are talking about derbies, let's move to another derby, Al Nassr versus Al Ahly.
Yes, thanks, Yula. So, Al Nassr versus Al Ahly. In the previous years, most of their matches were won by the Riyadh team, and based on their current form, I also expected an Al Nassr win this time. However, I did not expect that this match will be some kind of an orgy of attacking football with 7 goals and the perfect atmosphere. The match started with a quick goal from Cristiano, which we could barely see due to the Greek fire of the fans. And also, I would highlight the situation before this goal when one of Ahly's players, probably Mahrez, was fouled, but the referee did not stop the game. So it's quite a questionable decision.
No, it was not. It's not a fault.
Uh, okay, thanks for your comment, Andrish. We will talk about it later. Please keep your opinion until that topic. So, just in another 4 minutes, Cristiano shot to the post and no goal. However, after a free kick combination from the training ground, Talisca headed the ball into the goal. 2-0 for Nasser. Al Ahly needed almost another 15 minutes to wake up from their slow start when Kessié scored after the beautiful pass of Al Majad. But the first half was not over yet. After 2 missed chances from Sam Maximan, Talisca scored an absolute beauty in the extra time. To be honest, this one was the goal of the round for me, and I don't care about the other ones. Just kidding. Beyond its beauty, it was also incredibly important to increase the difference to 2 goals still in the first half. After that, Ahly started the second half in a better form, and Mahrez scored from the penalty spot 3-2. Almost immediately after that, Cristiano had his brace following Mane's great chance. 2 goals difference again. From that point, Ahly had far more chances. Even Ferraz scored their third goal in the 87th minute, but they were not able to score their fourth even in the 10 minutes extra time. All in all, it was the celebration of football itself, and I'm sure that those who had any doubts regarding the RSL and watched this game easily became a fan. Also, as mentioned previously, Ahly should really start to work on his defense, otherwise they will surely miss the Champions League spots. But but about the resurrection of Shabab, did our favorite Carrasco score again?
Actually, the answer is yes. Al Shabaab has convincingly beaten Al Hazm 4-1, and Carrasco opened his goal scoring account in the league for the home team with a wonderful strike. The victory of Al Shabaab was never in doubt, and the quality of the goals show why you should absolutely follow this beautiful league if you love football, as we do. The long range effort from Hazem summer signing Toze and the second goal from Banega were absolute stunners.
Yes, these goals were true feast for the eyes. And let me note here that Toze delivered again, and we can now declare that he has a very consistent performance, and he seems to be the best chance for Al Hazem to remain in the RSL at the end of the year. I will be honest now, I simply admire his performance so far. And although it is not something that I should say, but I hope his efforts will be crowned with 3 points sooner or later as well in the near future. But let's continue now with brief comments on the match of Al Ogdud and Al Calais. where two teams in the bottom half of the league played against each other. There were no such goals as in Riyadh during the Shabab Hazem match, as the only goal scored by Calais was delivered through a penalty. It was a perfect penalty kick by Khaled Narey. Although it was a close match, both in terms of the final result, 1-0, and and in terms of the overall performances of the teams, as Calais had another penalty chance before the one I already mentioned, and it was missed by Fabio Martins, we can say that the green and yellow club deservedly took all the 3 points from Nairam. It has to be mentioned, though, that Romanian international key player Andrei Burka had to be substituted in the first half, causing huge anxiety in the fans of the home team. However, there was no serious injury, and Burka could play in the next round, but more about that later.
Yeah, I'm I'm really happy for Burka. But now let's continue with another 4-3. Um, what an unreal match. It was incredible performances on both sides on the Attifaq tie match. Attifaq was able to take the lead on home ground, but Mensah scored twice still in the first half. But it was not enough. Dembele proved himself again and equalized before the whistle, 2-2 at the break. In the 40 or the 54th minute, to be precise, Mensah completed the hat-trick, but then came the real drama. Firstly, Gini Wijnaldum equalized, which was his second goal, and Dembele won the game for Stevie G's team in the extra time. Extremely important points for Attifaq in the race for the Champions League spots, and great performance from the new cleats on the block. Yula, what happened in the reigning champions match?
Well, surprisingly, and against the flow of the match, the captain of the visitors, Al Fateh, suddenly put the visitors in front at the 30-minute mark. However, the reigning champions, the home team, Al Ittihad, especially N'Golo Kante, stepped up, who first gave an assist to Romarinho and then scored himself with a beautiful strike outside of the penalty box. The end result was set up before the halftime and remained unchanged, so it was Al Ittihad Al Fateh 2-1.
Yeah, what a strike that was from Kante. Totally insane. And now, back to Riyadh.
But not with good news for Al Riyadh, who were easily defeated by King Cup title holder Al Fayha on home ground. The defenders of Al Riyadh were seemingly absolutely helpless against the long through passes of Al Fayha, or simply they have just set very poor offside traps. Although they scored then a goal in the last phase of the match, kind of out of nowhere, if you ask me, but then in the last minute, the outside the box long range shot of Abdel Habib Sabiri sealed their fate. Al Fayha won with 3-1. No question that they were the better team that day.
And not only that day, as you already mentioned, Andris, during your King Cup summary. This fixture was repeated in the King Cup 4 days later with another win for Al Fayha, even if the final score was only 2-1 in that case. But probably Al Riyadh had enough of Al Fayha for the time being.
Yeah,
And
sure they do.
yeah, and now let's hear a short summary from our real APA expert. What happened against Alvek Dadula?
Well, I do not have good news for Abha fans. Al Vegda has convincingly beaten Abha 4-0, where summer signings Goodwin and Ikhalo both scored. The third goal of the match deserves special mention, as the long-range shot of Faikal Fire resulted in probably the most beautiful goal of the game week. The defensive display from Abha should really worry their fans, especially before the first goal, as in my opinion, apart from Fire's stunner, which I mentioned previously, all the goals could have been avoided with better defending.
Totally agree, Dula. And with this awful defense, it seems almost impossible for me to avoid relegation and win their matches against their rivals in this regard.
نيمار والحارس الكوري نيمار يتقدم ويضيع وحارس المرمى يتألق حما نيمار
And now let's start the 8th round with the derby from Riyadh.
Yeah, actually, Al Hilal versus Al Shabab, where Al Hilal won 2-0, and it was a classic Riyadh derby. In the first half, the two teams were much more cautious with each other. Neither of them dominated the match. Well, at least Shabab was not as cautious in the 18-yard box, as Hilal were awarded two penalties in the first 45 minutes. On the first occasion, Mitrovic was grounded, but it could be argued that the Serbian striker might have committed a foul himself against his defender as he fell to the ground. After quite a lengthy VAR check, the penalty was revoked. You may ask whether it was the correct decision, and probably so did Alexander Mitrovic, who kept waiting at the penalty spot for minutes to finally take the kick, which he obviously couldn't. However, the VAR didn't come to the rescue of Al Shabab on the second occasion when Iago Azevedo dos Santos blatantly fouled Sergei Milinkovic Savic, another Serbian recruit from the summer. It was a clear penalty, and in the end, poor Mitrovic couldn't take this either as Neymar stepped up. It was the 37th minute. And can you believe it? He missed from the spot. The Brazilian superstar is still waiting for his first goal in the league and missed a golden opportunity. The ball was relatively well placed, but lacked power and was confidently saved by the goalkeeper.
Classic Neymar penalty, never powerful. Anyway, I don't even understand why not Mitro is the man for these situations. He's one of the best from the penalty spot in the league, if I remember correctly. However, to be precise, after this match, Neymar scored his first goal against Nasaji Mazandaran in the Champions League.
Yeah, but we will talk about the Champions League in the next episode. So
Yeah,
back to
true.
the Riyadh derby. In the dying minutes of the first half, the most exciting events were the unnecessary bust-up between Carrasco and Al-Bulaihi, for which the latter was awarded with a deserved yellow card. The second half started somewhat brighter for Al-Shabab, and Carrasco had some opportunities to put his team ahead, but he failed to score. Slowly and surely, Hilal took control of the game, and the still goalless Neymar, at least in the league perspective, was running the show. Koulibaly scored in the 68th minute after a beautifully taken corner with a textbook header.
Beautiful header, really. It is not a coincidence that I put him in my dream team. Also, we noticed that he checked our stories on Instagram. He surely has a good taste as well.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the end result of 2-0 was established in the 76th minute. After the unselfish pass of Neymar, Mitrovic finally scored. Actually, he scored on the second attempt as Al-Shabab goalkeeper Kim saved his shot sensationally on the first attempt. However, Mitrovic recovered exceptionally well and took his chance away calmly on the second attempt. Overall, Al Hilal deserved to win the derby based on their massive and dominant second half display. And if you ask me, I would say that despite the missed penalty, Neymar was the man of the match as he played crucial roles in both goals. Thanks to this victory, Hilal found themselves on the top of the league as round 8 of the Russian Saudi League concluded. Russian!
Russian,
Russian!
Russian,
Russian.
Russian, Saudi League.
Now let's continue with the match of Altay against Al Nasser. Al Nasser took the 3 points from Hail with a final score of 2-1. Although this was a well-deserved win, it was not an easy one and could have ended very differently. This was not a lucky day of Cristiano Ronaldo, who missed several chances. Although he played in God mode, as always, he was unlucky with the finishing, as Brazilian goalkeeper Victor Braga denied his shots with a stunning performance. However, the ice was broken in the 32nd minute, where Talisca capitalized on a very clever pass from Ronaldo. Both the assist and finishing were dazzling, proving a continuously developing chemistry between the two forwards. In the late phase of the game, however, Virgil Misidjan put an equalizer into Al Nasser's net. She should have scored later, probably, if you ask me, as the Al Nasser players who woke up from their deep dreams thanks to this goal have still sufficient amount of time to increase the speed of their game, and in exchange for their efforts, they were awarded with a penalty in the 87th minute. And this was converted to a winning goal, obviously, by their clutch player, Ronaldo. So the Portuguese GOAT finished the game with an assist and a goal to his name. An overall weak performance from Ronaldo. But yes, his standards are not of this world. After this match, he leads the top scorer list with 10 goals, and he also stands alone with the most assists provided so far. Really, should I say more?
Well, no, thanks. Mark, please continue with Game Week 8.
Uh, Thanks, Yula. Um, so now some words about Ahly versus Ettifaq. In a galaxy far, far away, it could have been a Liverpool training session, but nowadays it is a derby for the Champions League spot in the RSL. From the last 10 matches of Ahly against Ettifaq in the Saudi League, it was totally impossible to predict the outcome of this match. 4 Ettifaq wins against 6 Ahly wins without any draw, and also only 1 point separated the two teams on the table. Based on their performances from the previous rounds, we could expect a derby full of goals, but what we saw was a little bit disappointing instead. My plan was to speak about this match thoroughly, but to be honest, beyond an offside Firmino goal and some chances of Ettifaq, nothing important happened. Ahly had 3 times the shots as Ettifaq, but it was still not enough to score a goal. At least they did not concede any this time. But to be honest, their attackers should step on the next level because it will not be enough to reach one of the Champions League positions at the end of the season.
However, just to focus on the positives, good to see that the Ahly defense recovered from the Al Nassr match and they kept a clean sheet. But let's move to another match, anticipated match, Abha versus Al Riyadh. The big question here, after their thrashing against Al Wehda, is whether or not Abha is able to recover from this for this big match at the lower end of the league table. Well, to the question that whether or not Abha can recover, the answer is yes and no. Yes, because Abha mostly dominated the match and had their chances to win the game, but no, as the only goal was scored in the 84th minute by Al Riyadh summer signing Andre Gray. By the way, this was his first goal of the season and it resulted in invaluable 3 points, thanks to which Al Riyadh leapfrogged Abha on the league table, sending the home team to the relegation zone.
Oh, that's that's really sad. So, Andres, what about Feiha versus Ittihad?
Well, let's say that this fixture was easily the surprise of the 8th round, as Al Ittihad left 2 points in Al Maimah, the city of Al Feiha, where the 10,000 supporters of the home team Al Feiha could not see any goals during the 90 minutes. Not to underestimate the decent mid-table team Al Feiha, who are also the title holder of the King Cup, but Al Ittihad obviously should have grabbed all the 3 points in this match with the likes of Kante, Fabinho, and Hamdallah.
Okay, good names, but they could have won if Benzema was not injured, right?
Look, this is this is always speculation. I mean, we simply cannot know what would have happened if Benzema is not injured. But to provide a useful answer as well, as we are talking about the recent Ballon d'Or winner and the match when Al Ittihad was unable to score. So if we put these facts together, then yes, Benzema could have turned the needle on this match. And this is exactly a loss of points that the rivals could hope for when they have heard about the injury of the French superstar. Originally, this was communicated, this injury, as a week-long injury only, and that Benzema will be available for the Jeddah derby against Al Ahly, which will take place this weekend. The Ittihad fans, who, as per the rumors, start to signal that they are a bit impatient with the injury of Benzema, are certainly hoping that their best player can play against their city rival. We will see.
موسى راح موسى بالسرعة الان موسى راح التسديده يا موسى الله الله.
And now let's continue with Hazm versus Tavun. In their last 6 matches, 5 ended up as draws, but last time, 2 seasons before, Tavun was able to defeat Al Hazm. So it was finally a chance for Hazm to take revenge. I think we can miss the first half, nothing important happened. However, the second was extremely eventful. Tavun took the lead with Musa Barrow's goal at the end of a spectacular counter-attack, which was equalized by a penalty from Carvalho. The Hazm Ultras, hopefully there were some among the 959 spectators, almost could feel at least the 1 point in their hands, but then came the second goal of Tavun in the 86th minute after a big mistake by Ali Kwashish, and the third one from Aroki in the 14th minute of the extra time to an empty goal. Insane final.
Yeah, classic performance from Tavun, which again explains why they are sitting at the third position of the league table. But let's move to a classic Russian Saudi League match between Al Fateh and Al Vehda, a match from two teams in the upper end of the league table. Al Vehda took the lead thanks to a goal from informed winger Craig Goodwin. However, Christian Teo leveled during the added time of the first half. And in the second half, Al Fateh came from behind to convincingly win this match. Murad Batna scored from a free kick in the middle of the second half to take the lead for the home team. And at the end of the match, the goal-scoring show has just started. Summer signing Giannini came on from the bench and opened his goal-scoring account for his new club actually. And Christian Teo scored both in the last minute and during the other time of the game to finish the game with a hat-trick. What a display and turnaround from Al Fateh. And by the way, it's great to see Giannini returning to the kingdom in fine goal-scoring form.
It's really great. And just to hop in, speaking of the hat-trick of Teo, his second goal is a clear candidate for the Goal of the Week award, if you ask me. You must watch it if you did not do so. Regarding the third one, that sealed the hat trick. I believe it can be argued that it should have been recorded as an own goal, but I am happy that this did not happen, as Teo certainly deserved to bring the match ball with him into his home after this outstanding performance.
Yeah, and now another match from the mid-table. Calais prepared for this match in quite good form, since they were able to gather 8 points, which is all of their points, in their last 4 games, so they could have been confident that they will not lose on home ground against a weak Damak. Maybe they were too confident in this. Damak took the lead in the 43rd minute with the goal of Shafai and was able to double their lead in the second half by Mbida. Both of the assists were given by a new boy, Claudio Stanciu. Incredible performance from the Romanian international again. And no answer from Calais, only a huge amount of shots. The final result is 2-0 to Damak. And now finish the 8th round with the match of Rad versus Ogdud. Andris?
And this was a match between teams fighting relegation, so classic heated match, where Al Ogdud took all the 3 points from Buraida. At the start of the season, I would have told you that this is a surprise, but Al Rayed is in a very bad form, and after the loss in the Qasim derby, now they lost again against the freshman, new joiner in the league as well. Al Rayed is now in the relegation zone as a result. Based on the previous results, you could have heard in this episode, not surprisingly, together with Al Hazm and Abha. Obviously, we are still very early in the season, but it seems that Al Rayed will have to fight very hard this year to stay in the league. Al Ogdud, on the other hand, made a huge step toward laying the foundation of its very much wanted, long-lasting RSL membership. Apart from Godwin's savior, Romanian international Andrei Burka also scored, namely a winner penalty in the 83rd minute. So with this we get the answer that his early substitution in the lost match against Al-Khalay did not end in any serious injury, to the greatest delight of the fans of the Nairan team.
بداني في الطرف يتقدم يلعب كرة جميلة رائعة 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 سرعة جودوين انفراد
Yeah, and that was the summary of the last game week. But before we wrap up this episode, it's a Q&A session time. In our second and third episode, we reviewed the summer transfers of the league, massive signings and a lot of movement. Some of the mid to low table teams de facto built a completely new team and barely kept any names from last year's starting lineup, so I think we do not exaggerate if we call this transfer window lively. But what do you guys think? Will the coming transfer windows be similarly busy, especially in light of the rules concerning the limit of foreign players, or not?
Let me start with this one. Generally, I expect that the coming transfer windows will be busy as well, but the jobs for different teams may vary. For the bigger teams, like for the top 4 or top 6 nowadays, the main focus will be to strengthen their defense for Al-Ahly for sure, just like Al Nassr did this summer. While the mid and low table teams should continuously improve their squad, not only sign some top players. Anyway, I do not think that this signing wave to the kingdom will only be a one-time happening, since the improvement of sports and mainly football is part of Vision 2030. So, in my opinion, the standards of the league will continuously improve in the coming, let's say, 6 to 8 years, for which we now have a solid basis.
I totally agree, but in regards of the winter transfer window, the upcoming transfer window, we should not forget the maximum threshold of 8 slots set for foreign players. And I believe as this limit is reached or almost reached by the biggest teams, the winter period will not be as active as the summer period. But because of this, I would expect that the Saudi Football Association will sooner or later revisit this rule. But until then, in order to further strengthen the league on an overall basis, I believe that the smaller teams will also have their chance to grab slices from the European football market. So the winter transfer window may be more about them.
Well, definitely looking forward to see what happens. It will be interesting. But let's move to the topic of referees. This is quite an interesting one about which we have not talked yet. And because, as many of you may know, the Russian Saudi League employs a lot of foreign referees. What do you guys think about it? Is this a good idea? I would say that comparing the VAR decisions of the Hilal Shabab match, about which I talked thoroughly, and the recent, well debated Tottenham Liverpool match, you can see the difference between the two leagues.
Oof, yeah, Yula. This whole thing about the pool match was disgusting. McAllister well said that the opponent's team was with 12 players, and that's a joke as well that he can expect another penalty for this sentence.
Well, actually, if we are talking about England, if you heard the Mike Dean interview where he admitted that during one of his VAR duties, he intentionally did not flag a situation for his friend Anthony Taylor in order to protect him as he already hit a difficult match. Just pathetic and arrogant, especially that he did not keep this for himself, but instead openly talked about it. Just
So what a joke! But please, let's not talk about Premier League this
sorry,
time.
sorry.
Regarding the RSL, they not just working with foreign referees, but for several occasions they invited the best of them, such as Orsato or even István Kovács. This this is a new trend which may be a followed example in the coming years. Also, if I recall correctly, we did not see any enormous mistake from the domestic referees either.
Yeah, an interesting topic. But we also received a fun question midweek.
Yeah, but do not keep his name for you, Gyula. Thanks for the question to Balázs Gomkötő.
Yeah, thank you. It was quite a good question, actually, which relates to our summer transfer episodes. So, as we mentioned in the last episode, Jesse Lingard is training with Al Ettifaq for quite some time now. So, what do you guys think? Is there going to be a transfer, especially in light of the previously mentioned foreign player limit?
I believe Gerrard definitely wants him in the club. And I also believe that Lingard would be happy to play in the Kingdom, and especially with Stevie G in Ettifaq. But there is the question whether this is possible. Al Ettifaq already has 8 foreign players, so they would need to let one go, basically, theoretically. I believe they would even decide to let one of them go, as Lingard would probably be a better fit than some of them. But this is always a difficult situation, especially mid-year when the squads are already registered. So I would say that there is still a very good chance that Lingard will play for Al Ettifaq in the near future. But there may be an even greater chance that he will play in any other teams or any teams of Saudi Arabia. So Al Ettifaq may not be an exclusive choice for Jesse Lingard, but we will see certainly.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Andrish. And if no other topics come to your mind, and I assume none, then I think we should finish for today. Next time, we will get back to you with the highlights of the ninth round, the Champions League games, and many other interesting topics. Amongst others, for example, why Al Ittihad's match in the Champions League was postponed. Until then, you can find and rate us on Spotify, and also can send your questions on Facebook or Instagram to our account of Saudi Football Fanatics. We will try to answer all your questions in the next episodes as well. See you next time.